Good morning. I'm Sandy Walden of Serenity, your master grief coach. If you're joining me this morning, please say hello. If you're listening to a replay, type in replay. It's important to me to know who's listening and what your thoughts and experiences are. This morning, I want to talk about suicide. It's a word that many people won't say. I get that. And this is September, so it's National Suicide Prevention or Suicide Awareness Month. I'm not talking so much about the prevention as I am the aftermath. Those of us who are here after someone we love has ended their own life. For so many, there's incredible stigma and shame and guilt. These are big things, they're big topics. So we're going to talk about them a little at a time. It's going to be a continual conversation. In fact, you know what? I've just this moment decided. Next week, Thursday. Good morning, Rebecca. Glad to have you here. Next week, Thursday, join me in my group at 6 p.m. We're going to talk about suicide. We're going to talk about really common feelings that people have and how we can support one another through this. All right, just made a commitment there. You'll see, I'll put it in a post later. So next Thursday at 6 p.m. in my group, let's have the conversation about these things that come with suicide loss. Rebecca, I'm so glad you're here. When I lost my son to suicide at the end of 2010, it was something I could never have imagined. Mike was a happy, content, laid-back guy everybody loved. Great sense of humor, loud, and quiet at the same time. We had no hint that this was even a possibility. But it's also clear, with things that we learned later, that he had been planning this for at least a few days. I don't know if it was longer. Many people are in the same position, that it's a complete surprise. Good morning, Monica. Thank you for joining me. For many people, it's a shock when someone they love ends their own life. Others have hints or warnings. Perhaps the one they care about is dealing with drug or alcohol abuse. Perhaps they're dealing with mental illness. It could be overwhelm of so many sorts. And that feeling of guilt comes in for many. So you're going to hear me say again and again and again, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Let that be your mantra. Now, I talk to people a lot about how powerful they are, and I think that's absolutely true. But we do not control the lives of others, and I think that's really important to know. I am a powerful being. I have choices to make for my own life, my own healing, my own recovery from this pain. However, I did not have the ability to keep my son on this planet. As powerful beings, we don't control, but we have choices to make in our own life. But often when people come to me, they tell me that they feel guilty because they didn't keep this person alive. And I want to remind you, if you had the ability, you would have. You would have. It was not ours to control. It's not your fault. Guilt is huge. I get it. It's overwhelming. It's painful. It's also unfair. It's incredibly unfair. When I think about the word guilt, it's something that I associate with something we have deliberately done to inflict pain or harm or damage to someone. I've never yet worked with anyone who deliberately did something that would cause the one they love to have ended their own life. It's not your fault. Deep regret Absolutely. Absolutely. I get that. But guilt. As far as I'm concerned, guilt has no place. And so we work to release it. And that can be a step at a time. Suicide. It's all right to say the word. As far as I'm concerned, I have a strong belief in the afterlife. So as far as I'm concerned, I often think about suicide as a sign above a door that my son walked through to get from this world to the next. Next to it, there's a door that says cancer. Many people I love walk through that door. Maybe there's a door that says heart attack. Maybe there's a door that says simply old age. It's simply a word to get from one side to the other. I refuse to own shame or stigma for myself, for my son, or for anyone else. Mike was an amazing young man. He was a funny little boy. He was witty. He was smart. He was a smart aleck. He was sassy. He could be loud. He could be angry. Guess what? He was human. He was a magnificent human. So why in the world would I be ashamed of him? I refuse to own shame. I refuse to own stigma. And I encourage you to remember, it's not your fault. If you had the power to keep the one you love alive, there's no doubt in my mind you would have. Let go of the shame. Let go of the stigma. When we work together, we work on that a little at a time. But we're going to talk about suicide a lot this month. I encourage you to join the conversation. What's true for you? If you've lost someone to suicide, what do you find helpful? Where are you feeling incredible pain? What can we work on together? Because it matters. It matters so very much. As I said, next Thursday at 6 p.m. in my group, we're going to have a conversation about this, and I'd like to know what points would you like to address specifically during that conversation. It's a very good chance it's going to be ongoing sessions. I'm Sandy Walden from Serenity. I'm going to make this short because somebody's working with power tools right outside my window. Who knew? Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining this conversation. When we lose someone from suicide, it's just the way they died. They are so much more. Let's talk about who they are. Let's talk about the jokes they enjoyed. Let's talk about the times they made you crazy. Let's talk about that person and embrace them in full. They are so much more than the way they died. You deserve that. We all deserve that. That's healing, and that's how we reconnect. I'm Sandy Walden from Serenity, your Master Grief Coach. Thank you for joining me today, and I really look forward to hearing what resonates with you. Namaste.